Well, hey there, everyone. It's Mrs. Asaro, and I'm here to teach your class about narrative writing. In this lesson, we are going to be doing a rough draft. Before we get started, I just wanted to welcome you and tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Mrs. Asaro, and I have an online teaching store called All-in-One Middle School. I was a teacher for 34 years, and teaching language arts was and is my passion. The goal of this lesson is to write a rough draft of a narrative. Narrative writing is a whole process, so be sure to also look for the next video called Narrative Writing Part 2, where we will work to add more components such as dialogue, internal monologue, figurative language, and things like that. This presentation, along with guided notes, is available to print in my TPT store, and I'll be sure to link that in the video description. If you are using guided notes, you should fill them in when you see this icon. If you are not using the guided notes, just be sure to have some paper or computer so you can write as you're watching. If your teacher lets you work with a partner, you will turn and talk in certain portions. I hope you find this lesson helpful. Let's dive in. Let's talk first about having a mentor text. It's always good to have a mentor text to refer to when you're learning new skills. It doesn't always have to be in writing like a regular text, though. Sometimes short films are a great way to learn new skills when writing. For this lesson, we will examine the short film, The Present. Your teacher may prefer that you use a different mentor text. If so, when you take notes, just substitute what your teacher tells you to use. Pause my video and click on The Present. It is about 4 minutes long. While you are watching, think about the basic plot elements: setting, characters, conflict, solution, things like that. The link is in the video description. We will discuss this video a bit later on in the slideshow, so go ahead now and pause here and watch The Present. So why is narrative writing important? There is no doubt that you have read and enjoyed stories and movies. These are narratives as they tell a story. Aside from being fun to do, writing narratives is something that you will need to do at least a few times in your academic career. You'll want a method to write stories so that getting creative is easier. Having a solid understanding of plot structure will assist you greatly, because plot structure equals your storyline, and that is narrative writing. So writing narratives, let's get on board. When you write a narrative, think of it as a puzzle. Everything you write will need to fit together and make sense to lead back to the story you are telling as a whole. Today's goal is to write a narrative containing all the plot elements. Each element is essential. Without all the elements, your story puzzle will be incomplete. Okay, so here we see our guided note icon, and that means that if you have guided notes, you're going to take your notes now. Let's go through a quick review of plot elements. So a plot line is the sequence of events in the story. The exposition is where you introduce your characters, your setting, and your problem. The rising action means tension is rising. The character tries and fails to solve the problem. The climax or turning point is the intense point in the book. Everything will be different from this point on for the main character. In the falling action, that's the events after the climax that wrap up the loose ends of the story. In the resolution, there is some closure, or what we call resolution, for the characters. Now, if you need more of a review on plot elements, I have a free video lesson on that as well, on plot structure, and I'll be sure to link that in the video description. So now you're going to try it. You're going to turn and talk, and you're going to think about that short film called The Present, which I'm sure a lot of you were cringing at the beginning and maybe let out a little sigh of sympathy towards the end. You're going to turn and talk and review each element of the plot line. If you are using guided notes, fill them in as well. So go ahead and pause my video and turn and talk. Okay, so let's get into our narrative writing. Step 1, I want you to focus on the main character and the conflict. Okay, although you could just fill out an entire plot line all at once before writing a narrative, it would be a good idea to spend a bit more time and thought with ideas on who you'd like to use as a main character and what the conflict will be. The reminder that I have for you about types of conflict, it could be person versus person, person versus society, person versus self, person versus nature. If you need more information, I have a whole video on conflict as well that I'll link for you. It would be helpful to pick a conflict that you can relate to well, okay? It's always easier to write about something when you have some type of association with it. When deciding on your main character, you'll want to think of some of their specifics and some of their character traits. Are they bossy? Anxious? How old are they? And again, I have a video on character analysis if you need more info. A hint for you, do the conflict part first. It will likely give you clarity on your character. So now you're going to try it. Turn and talk and come up with some ideas for each column of the chart. Brainstorm your ideas and fill in your guided notes. Then select your favorite from each column. So you're going to decide on a type of conflict, describe it, a character's name, and a short description of the character. So pause my video and turn and talk. Okay, step 2, setting and minor character. Next, you'll want to describe the setting. The setting is when and where the story takes place. Stories can have multiple settings, so pick one that you'll use the most. Minor characters are quite important in a story because they move it along and help create dialogue. Decide on a minor character. This character can be a friend or an enemy of the main character. There are usually more than one minor character in a story, but just pick one for now. So go ahead and try it. Turn and talk and come up with some ideas for each column of the chart. Try to be as specific as possible. Brainstorm your ideas and fill in your guided notes. Then select your favorite from each column. So you're going to come up with a different time setting, place, minor character's name, and describe the minor character. Okay. Okay, step 3, trying to solve the problem. If a character were to immediately solve their problem, there wouldn't be much of a story. Throughout a well-developed story, characters try and fail several times to solve their problems. Here's an example from the sample that I gave you on the previous slide. My conflict was Janet has been kicked out of a social group, and Gloria was the one who was the leader of that social group. So a possible solution. Janet stands up to be the leader of the social group. The outcome? They make fun of her on the bus and she's humiliated. So that solution doesn't work out for Janet. Then Janet tells her favorite teacher what is happening. The outcome? The guidance counselor is called, but the group makes up a lie about Janet and gets her in trouble. So again, that solution did not work out for her. The last one, Janet finally decides to join the art club at school to make a new group of friends. The outcome? The old group of friends tried to make her life miserable, but Janet has found comfort and camaraderie with her new art club friends. So in the end, it will work out for her. Maybe not how she envisioned it working out for her, but it will. Okay, so now you're going to try it. You're going to turn and talk and come up with 3 ways your character will try to solve their problem. Include the possible outcomes. The first 2 should be the character trying and failing. The last should be the character trying and succeeding. Brainstorm your ideas and fill in your guided notes. Step 4 is theme. One of the most important components of your story is that it should have a strong theme. The theme is the message that the author is trying to convey. Theme is usually inferred and not stated outright. For example, one of the themes in the present is that things are not always as they seem. So nobody came right out and said that, but after watching it, that's something that I took away from watching the film. If you need more info, I have a lesson on that as well. I will link the information for the theme video lesson in my video description. But here are some common themes. Part of growing up is accepting yourself and seeing yourself clearly. You can find hope after tragedy. Too much power causes corruption. Friends can be the family that we never had. Most people struggle in one way or another in school. So now you're going to try it. Turn and talk and come up with 3 possible themes for your story. Be sure it is a message that you will want the audience to understand after reading your story. Brainstorm your ideas and fill in your guided notes. So you're going to come up with 3 possible themes for your story. Pause my video and go ahead and do that now. Step 5 is a quick write. Because the goal of this lesson is to have a rough draft, you are going to try some writing. Before your rough draft, you will do a quick write. The idea is to just write whatever comes to mind about your story without overthinking it. Don't even worry if you're going out of order. The idea is to just get your initial thoughts out. Set a timer for 10 minutes. And the idea is to keep writing. It's not a rough draft yet. It is a quick write. That means you can even write something that's kind of going through your mind or that you're not sure of. Like, I'm not sure if my character will win or lose this time, but I have to work it out. You can even write the strategies that you want to use and some of your internal monologue, what you're thinking. Again, it's not a rough draft. It's a quick write. Record this in your guided notes or in a notebook. So go ahead and pause my video and do your quick write. Okay, step 6 now is your rough draft. Now I'm going to go to the teacher note first. You might not want to do this right after your quick write. Sometimes that's a lot of writing in one sitting. That's up to you and your teacher. You could maybe do this for homework or work on it the next day. But after your quick write, you are going to write a rough draft. I'd recommend at this point opening up your computer and typing it into a document. This way it will be a lot easier to make changes. However, I did provide paper in your guided notes to do this if you want, or you can write in a notebook if you prefer. Do your best to follow the plot line and think about your theme. So you want to have your theme in your head, but it's not something that you're going to say outright, okay? If you are stuck coming up with the beginning, try describing the first scene. When you're done, you can go to my next video lesson, which is to make some meaningful revisions. I will provide a sample of a quick write and a rough draft in the guided notes portion so you can see what that looks like, okay? And that is a wrap. Be sure to tune back in for more Teach My Class episodes. You can also check out my First Chapter Friday portion on my YouTube channel, where I read the first chapters of my favorite middle school novels. Hope to see you soon.